A couple days ago, Disney put out the first trailer for The Little Mermaid, and as you can see here, it is getting absolutely obliterated with 1.3 million downvotes compared to 384,000 upvotes. It's very apparent that fans are not happy with this trailer or anything really that Disney is putting out at the moment when it comes to these live action remakes. And I just want to make a comparison to another thing that is coming out soon from Disney, which is Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And as you can see here, the ratios on these two are very much different. Like, they're almost completely flipped. This has 1.4 million upvotes compared to 140,000 downvotes. Meanwhile, this ratio on The Little Mermaid continues to widen. The gap on this is continuing to grow as this number, the downvote number, continues to climb at a very rapid rate. And a lot of this just stems from more and more people waking up to seeing the game that Disney is playing here and just how terrible of a company Disney actually is, as they continue to force a lot of very terrible political agendas and awful worldviews into their shows and movies. And when they get called out for that being the main focus instead of actually telling a good story, then they're like, oh, the reason why you don't like this movie is because we have a black person in it, when really that isn't what the actual problem is. And that's really not what the problem is that a lot of fans have. And a lot of fans are being called out for disliking this trailer and everything else when we don't apparently know much about it. But once again, I was right, because we actually got this interview that we're going to be taking a look at here with Halle Bailey, where she talks about what this film is focused on. What are the important things that this film is focused on? And yes, very much so, just in the way of a lot of the other terrible things that Disney continues to put out, especially with these live action remakes, it isn't focused on actually telling the story of The Little Mermaid that we know. It's very much so just going in the same way of things like Rings of Power, where it's focused on taking something that we already knew, a story that we were already familiar with, and then completely replacing it with some sort of hijacked version of that story that is through a modern woke lens. So, like I said, just compare these two trailers and the numbers here. Completely different. The opposites, in fact. So, new Little Mermaid. Snow White stars say their modern characters won't be defined by needing a man's love. You already know where this is going, okay? You already know that this isn't about actually creating the stories of Ariel and Snow White or anything like that. It's about an agenda. It's about a political ideology. Call it the Elsa effect, or maybe it's just progress. Now, this is the thing, is that Elsa is something that I can actually respect as a film, the Frozen films and everything else, because those are actual original stories. It's the same reason why a lot of people don't have a problem with things like Moana or Encanto, or any of these other stories that Disney continues to put out with all of these new princesses. The backlash isn't the same with those, because those are original stories that Disney's putting out. Those are new stories that they're putting out. But they are afraid to do that with these live action stories for some reason. Like, why couldn't Disney just make a new story that could be still in the same universe as The Little Mermaid or something else with a black lead in it? And no one would bat an eye. I wouldn't bat an eye. That's the thing, is that none of this actually has to do with creating new stories or developing new ideas or characters or anything like that. It's all about hijacking something that came before. And so there's this comment as well that I really want to highlight, because I thought this was absolutely fantastic. No actresses who could pass for Danish were available. My people, please stop supporting this stuff. We deserve films about black fairy tales. We don't need to plunder European heritage. We have amazing fairy tales of our own. And honestly, I think that's true. And that's something that I am actually very focused on over at EpicVerse. I would love to actually bring some of these African stories, some of these African folklore and tales and everything else to the screen, which is something that I am actually in pursuit of right now. But let's go ahead and take a look and see what Halle Bailey has to say here. And while Eric will still be a major character in next year's The Little Mermaid, Bailey says her Ariel also won't be defined by romantic attraction. We keep a lot of the meat of the film that made us all fall in love with this film. It's really her and her gumption and just excitement for the life above her world. So it's amazing, but it's also updated with the current times. And this statement right here tells us everything that we need to know about what this movie is going to be focused on, what this movie is going to find important. It isn't about, telling the story of The Little Mermaid again. in the context of the actual story of The Little Mermaid, it's about updating it. This is the same language that the showrunners with Rings of Power are using for that show as well. They're updating Lord of the Rings with the current times. And if you criticize that because they're not being faithful to Tolkien or whatever else, then apparently that makes you a terrible person. I think she really just goes for what she wants. She's not scared. And it's not all about a boy. It's all about what she wants for herself and her life. So once again, this is showing that the message that Disney is trying to get out there is the message of the God of self, where, you know, it's all about ourselves. It's about me, me, me. It's about having this selfish sort of viewpoint on the world, which is something that they are very, very keen on continuing to try to push in everything that they do. And the reason for this is because when you have a selfish mindset, it affects society as a whole. And I just love this type of trolling that the comment sections on YouTube have taken with all these crappy trailers that we continue to get, where they say things like, the part where Ariel controls a swarm of eels and says, it's Morbin time, was truly breathtaking. So good. The part where Ariel lights up a cigar, sips her sparkling water, and asks Ursula, what colors your Bugatti, had me in tears. Truly one of the films that has been made. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below, because it's very obvious what kind of a direction The Little Mermaid is going to be going in. This shows right here, this is a huge indicator, and everything that we've seen about The Little Mermaid is basically an indicator that fans are not going to be happy with this product. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you all in another video very soon. Bye.